Hello and welcome to Matrix Live. My guest today is Travis Ralston, the Director of Standards Development. Welcome, Travis. Travis is also part of the Trust and Safety team at the Matrix.org Foundation, and he's here to talk about authenticated media in Matrix. But first, a heads up that the Matrix conference will take place in Berlin on September 19th to 22nd. We will announce the schedule very soon, but I'm very happy to announce that in less than 2 weeks, the project leads of state-sponsored deployments, key digital rights activists, and the Matrix community at large sent us more than 60 high-quality proposals. I'm also receiving mails from organizations asking to sponsor the event and from people who want to volunteer to help us make sure that the event is a logistical success because it takes a bit of work to set it up and tear it down. So it's truly heartwarming to see all the enthusiasm around the conference. Thank you very much for all that energy around the conference. If you are an organization in the Matrix ecosystem, or if you want to support this type of event, we have a sponsorship prospectus at 2024.matrix.org/sponsor. I'm going to leave a link in the description as well if you want to support us. And now back to Matrix Live. So Travis, today we have a few things to cover. We're going to talk about how media works in Matrix because it can be a bit opaque when you are not used to it. We are going to cover what is the problem with unauthenticated media, because if you are deploying authentication, I guess there's a reason for that, how the problem is solved, and what are the consequences for the Federation at large. So, Matrix, it's a federated protocol, which means that whenever a server participates in a room, it fetches and keeps a local copy of all the events in that room, and it keeps that local copy in sync, with all the other servers that participate in the same room. So if matrix.org and airgaster.org are in the same room, they all have a copy of everything that is happening in the room. So what I've been describing as events, to keep things simple, can be the messages, the room changes, so the topic change when somebody tries to join a room, when somebody sends a message. But what about images and videos? What happens if I send a message to one of my friends who is on the same server as me? Let's keep the simple setup for starters.
Yeah, so media matrix is referenced through events. And like you said, events can have all sorts of different types and meanings and that sort of stuff. Uh, with the media, it is a reference within that event. You upload it first. Generally speaking, you get a media ID from your server, and then you include that in the event. And so the events that include these sort of media IDs are like your join event when you actually join a room and it says, Tebow joined the room or whatever. That includes typically like your avatar, or when the room avatar changes, that also has a media reference. Same thing with every time you upload an image, a video, a voice message, anything like that, a file. Uh, those all have references to media, and they might have thumbnail references to other like smaller versions of that media, so that way you don't have to spend as much bandwidth downloading it. When your friend receives that event or that message, their client will look at that event, pull out that media reference, and then ask their server to download it. So when it's a local server, it just simply goes, "Oh, well, I already have that. That's good," and so it can just give you that media. But yeah, it's all referenced through events and that sort of stuff.
All right, so the media themselves are not tied to a specific room. There is a sort of repository where all the media goes, and then various rooms can reference that media.
Yeah. So you can reference the media multiple times. Currently, at least, we'll cover that in a minute. But yeah, the media can be reused multiple times. It can be used in multiple events, and those events might be encrypted. So the actual media might be encrypted in addition to the event being encrypted. So the server has no visibility on what that media is or where it's referenced.
All right, so is it any different if somebody from another home server is joining a room? Is the media replicated on their server as well?
It's replicated when their server requests it. So if another user joins the room and they open the room, typically their client will start asking to show images and that sort of stuff. And so it'll reach out to their server. Their server will have no idea that if this media exists or not, but that media ID includes a reference to the origin server, as we call it, or the server that uploaded it in the first place. And so that new server can then reach out over federation to that origin server and try and get the media there. And so it's not replicated like events, which are pushed out to all the participating servers. It's kind of an on poll basis.
Mhm.
So what a lot of servers do is just to reduce the amount of excess, what we call remote media on their server, is they just kind of prune it every once in a while, usually about every week or two, just to say like, hey, this hasn't been accessed in a while. I have no interest in storing it, and so they just kind of get rid of it. But yeah.
Yes, I've been through that myself because a little while ago I tried to clean up my server. I could see my bill for the S3 bucket with all the events, with all the media, sorry, growing, and I was not too happy about that. And it turns out that I just forgot to set a purge, a regular purge, so I kept the media forever. It's a bad
Yeah.
idea. Go check the manual, the configuration manual of your home server to make sure that you are cleaning after yourself. All right. So, what if I redact a picture or someone else does? Because there's the purge, as we have mentioned, but there is also the possibility to redact events in Matrix. What happens?
Yeah, so currently, and we hope to fix this with the sort of latter half of authenticated media. Um, Currently, if you redact an event, the actual media that's associated with that still stays on the server because, again, the server has no idea which event or events reference that media, and so it just stays there kind of forever. The event itself is redacted, which is good, and the actual media reference is redacted, but the media itself lingers around, and this is a long-standing bug that we just want to fix. MSC 3911 is the MSC that starts linking a lot of this sort of stuff. There's a bit of an open question about whether or not references should be one-to-one or if they should be one-to-many to support that sort of multiple events use case. But the rough idea is by telling the server this event has this media associated with it, when the event is redacted, the server can go through and go, oh, okay, well, I can get rid of that media too then. Or if it's one to many, it can say, yeah, all of the events have been redacted, so I'll get rid of that media as well. But that's the kind of hope with that particular proposal, is to try and fix that, and that's the one of the next things that the trusted safety team is working on here.
All right. So, what specific problems is the authentication of media going to solve?
Yeah, so authenticated media starts sort of laying the foundation and the groundwork for MSC 3911 to work. Authenticated media started as MSC 3916. It's now in Matrix 1.11, so it's already out in the wild, which is good. Uh, Idea there is just to make sure that the client that's accessing the media or the server that's accessing the media over Federation um, is less anonymous. Because as part of the linking media, we need to make sure that whoever's calling into or download that media or request a thumbnail of that media, that they have the appropriate visibility on the event that is referenced to it, which requires authentication. So that authentication component removes the anonymous access component and allows the server to know who or what is requesting that media, and then can in future make better decisions about it. But for now, it's just trying to get the clients updated incrementally, so that way they aren't totally affected by a significantly larger change around media.
All right, makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess there's going to be the introduction of new endpoints. So this is going to have an impact in a federated environment like Matrix. Is this going to affect the relationship between client and servers and servers, the both of them?
Yeah, so the authenticated media stuff does affect what the client needs to do and what the servers need to do over
Mhm.
federation. Over federation, the servers have a little bit more work to do than the clients because there is a new download endpoint as well as a new thumbnail endpoint that include a little bit of metadata about the file. In future, this would be used for things like linked media and those references and those permissions. Um, but it also includes either the media itself or a redirect to the media. And so it uses a weird multi-port format, um, but it includes all that to a single endpoint. I know that a lot of servers have already implemented it, which is good. It's just a little bit more complicated to kind of get that set of endpoints working. On the client server side, there are new endpoints as well, because we are moving away from the sort of slash matrix slash media namespace into the slash matrix slash client namespace. And so there's a new download endpoint, there's a new thumbnail endpoint. We also moved the URL preview and config endpoints and those various things while we were there, but we haven't moved the upload or create endpoints yet. That's because we expect some changes as part of MSC 3911, and so we'll be bringing those over into the new namespace once we kind of work out the details of that proposal a little bit more. But yeah, the major change is the new namespace, and then clients and servers both have to provide their authentication to those endpoints to prove who they are. So for clients, it's just the access token. I highly recommend using the authorization header for that. And then for servers, it's also the authorization header, but it's using that X matrix scheme that servers should hopefully be familiar with by now.
Okay. And the foundation is running one of the largest home servers in the Federation, the matrix.org home server. Is the matrix.org home server going to stop supporting unauthenticated media at some point? And if yes, when?
Yes. So we're doing what's called or what we're calling a freeze of the unauthenticated media. So on August 28th, during some UK business hours, I believe, what Matrix will be doing is any media that was uploaded or cached from before August 28th will remain accessible on the unauthenticated endpoints. So that's just to prevent breakage, because some people have used those URLs in like tweets or other social media. We don't want to just suddenly break 10 years worth of URLs across the internet. So, but we also don't want to support that kind of going forward, because there are some abuse vectors in there that we would rather avoid. And so on August 28th, anything uploaded up until that day will remain accessible on the unauthenticated endpoints. They'll also be accessible on the authenticated endpoints, so clients can they don't have to determine what the date of the freeze is or anything like that. They can just use the authenticated endpoints and have access to all of the media. On and after August 28th, any media that is uploaded from that point will only be accessible on the authenticated endpoints. So if you access it on the unauthenticated stuff or the legacy media routes, those will return I believe, a 404 or M unrecognized error, which is just to kind of give a hint to the client that they're using the wrong endpoint, without necessarily revealing that the media is like definitely there. And so, yeah, basically, if you update your client before August 28th to use the authenticated endpoints when they're available, you should see no issues. But clients or other servers on the Federation that don't update might see some issues with downloading media. So this might be avatars become broken or missing, images don't download anymore, that sort of stuff, because it'll be after that August 28th date.
Okay, so it's not that far in the future, and it requires a bit of work on the client and server side. So if I'm a client or home server developer, can I get help somewhere if there's something I'm not sure about?
Yeah, so we have I believe the Matrix client developers and Matrix server developers rooms that just exist as part of the Matrix community space. And so you can join those. The trust and safety team is monitoring them just to keep an eye on things and trying to provide support wherever we can. Just because, yeah, some of these changes are a little harder for certain clients or applications or even servers than others. Web clients in particular might end up having to use the service worker. We also just discovered yesterday that desktop clients might also need to like hook into certain areas of that sort of request pipeline. And so we're just trying to provide a little bit more support where we can. The hope is that at least for clients that the change is relatively trivial, because it should, in theory, be as simple as changing the endpoint and then adding authentication, and that's it. There should be no additional complexity or issues with that. Yeah, if you do have issues, just drop into the Matrix client developers room or the Matrix server developers room.
Right. So you mentioned a bit earlier another MSC following the one we are discussing, authenticated media. The next MSC is going to be linking media to one or several events. Are there other MSCs coming up, or is it too early to say what is going to come next?
I don't believe there's more in that sort of series. There might be some more media work, but it'll be kind of adjacent to linking and authenticated media. With the linking media, it is probably worth mentioning that MSC 3911 is quite large as an MSC. So what we're looking to potentially do is break it down into a bit smaller pieces. So there might be some MSCs around that, just to kind of bring us closer a little bit to authenticated media, get those upload endpoints brought over to the new namespace as soon as possible, regardless of whether or not we actually have linked media at that point. And yeah, just trying to iterate a little bit more rapidly on that. So there might be a few more MSCs opened in that area. But yeah, after linked media, we might expect that just in general, there will be some level of improvement over media, but again, it's just adjacent work there.
Right. One thing I really want to point out is that all the spec work we are talking about and that you have been doing is made on behalf of the Matrix Foundation to make Matrix safer. Sorry. So if you, the audience, want the foundation to be able to keep deploying those efforts, please support our work financially and become a member. You can go to matrix.org and you should be able to find very quickly how to support us. Travis, is there anything we forgot to mention?
I don't believe so. But yeah, just to kind of recap the sort of timeline there, on August 28th, that's when matrix.org is going to be implementing its freeze of the media. Other servers are encouraged to also come up with a similar date, just based off of their local ecosystem. Like there might be some bridge changes that they have to track, or other clients that their users use more frequently, or even just servers that they interact with more frequently that might be either, say, freezing in September, or might even be freezing here in July. And so it just kind of keeping an eye on that and creating a plan for your own users is very much appreciated. I believe the specs guidance is before Matrix 1.12, which is currently aimed at mid to late August. So Matrix.org might be a little late to that recommendation, but only by like a week or two. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. And you have been mentioning bridges, which is a good opportunity to give some visibility to Tadzik's work. You, the audience, might have seen Tadzik recently talking about the migrator. So he's still working on that, but in parallel to that, he's also working on the bridges that the foundation maintains. So the bridges, the IRC bridge in particular, and the Slack bridge will be updated to take care of respecting the specification. All right. With all that said, I will see you next week, Matrix Live. See you around.
Yeah.